The weapon that burns all. Except one. The battlefield stretched across the dead plains of Kirel 4, where smoke covered the sky and ash filled the air. Entire cities had turned into glowing ruins, and the cries of dying species echoed through. Communication feeds from orbit. This was not a war anymore. This was extermination. At the heart of this destruction stood the most feared invention in galactic history. The Arc Lance, a high-energy plasma weapon so powerful that even reinforced starship hulls melted under its beam. The Galactic Alliance had declared it the final answer to resistance. No creature, no soldier, no machine had ever survived direct contact with it. Something changed on Cycle 7 of the siege against the human. Outpost on Kirel 4 surveillance drones recorded an impossible scene. A lone human soldier walked through the outer blast zone of an arc lance detonation. His armor peeled away like paper and fire danced across his skin. But he did not fall. He did not scream. Instead, he kept walking slowly, steadily, until the weapon fell silent. Commanders watching the footage thought it was a trick. Some claimed it was tampered data or holographic interference. But then came the second report, and a third. All showed the same soldier walking through energy zones meant to disintegrate tanks. His name was Sergeant Elias Hale, and the enemy called him the Ember Man. Inside the war chamber on Station Zelos, prime leaders of the 6 ruling species gathered around the hologram in silence. The image played on a loop showing Hale stepping out of a burning crater while flames clung to his body like a second skin. One of the Varnuk generals hissed in disbelief. That weapon should have turned him into dust. He is human. They burn like paper. The scientist from the Selenite delegation leaned forward, eyes wide and trembling. No, this one absorbed it. Watch closely. His body glows after the blast. It is not just resistance. It is adaptation. Whispers filled the room. Some asked if humans had developed new tech. Others thought it was genetic tampering, but none could explain how. Hale stood tall when nothing else ever did. A decision was made. The Ember Man had to be taken. Alive on Earth. Meanwhile, nobody knew what had happened, not even Sergeant Hale. The last thing he remembered was the searing light and the sound of screaming plasma. After that, only silence and fire. Then he had stood up and seen the battlefield empty. The RA tanks had stopped firing. Soldiers from both sides stared at him as if he were a ghost. He looked at his hands. They glowed faintly. Orange veins pulsed with something that was not blood anymore. Military doctors scanned him but could not explain what they found. His cells were active at a level never recorded before, as if his entire body was rewriting itself on the spot. His heartbeat was slow, his temperature high, and his pain threshold beyond human range. "What's happening to me?" he asked as they injected him with cooling fluids. No one had an answer back in deep space. The Council received another disturbing report. The weapons on Sector Theta had been fired again. This time at a different human squad. The energy pulses had killed most of them instantly, but one survived. Not just survived, he stood up covered in burns that healed in seconds. His name was Private Remy Navarro, and like Hale, he glowed after the strike. Panic spread among the Council members. Some called it a biological mutation. Others feared it was deliberate. "Earth has always been unstable," said the Krull ambassador. "Their species thrives in war. What if this is not random? What if pain triggers something inside Thema?" Hidden lab in the far ring of the galaxy received urgent orders. One of the top alien scientists, Dr. Yaltoon, was asked to examine the human prisoners captured during earlier battles. He studied one of them under intense radiation, expecting him to burn like the others. But instead the man smiled as the energy poured onto his skin. Then his pulse slowed and the monitor screamed. Dear Yaltoon took a step back. "Something is very wrong," he whispered. "This is not evolution. This is a reaction. Their biology is learning." Meanwhile, Hale sat alone in his containment room, staring at his hands still faintly glowing. He could feel something changing deep inside. Not just power, but awareness. He no longer feared the RE weapons. He felt drawn to them as if the energy spoke to him in a language he had never known before. He remembered the blast, the way the pain had turned into something else. Something bright, something alive, and then he remembered the silence after the fire. The way the air had tasted like metal and lightning, across the galaxy, the word began to spread quietly. In hushed voices and encrypted messages, a warning spoken, not as fear, but as fact: there's a human who walks through fire, and he is not alone. Project Emberskin. The war on Earth was not always fought with the same weapons that now burned planets to ashes. It had begun long ago in secret laboratories hidden beneath mountain ranges and deep inside abandoned cities, where scientists worked on something dangerous and unknown. They called it Project Emberskin, a program designed to push human bodies beyond their limits. The idea was simple: to create soldiers who could survive the deadly energy weapons that were becoming common in wars across the stars. The scientists knew it was risky, but they also knew that without this edge, humanity would be wiped out. Sergeant Elias Halle had been one of the first volunteers. The war had taken many from him, his friends, his family. But Halle had something else: a will to live that no weapon could break. When he entered the lab, he was told that the tests would be painful and that few would survive. But survival was the only choice, and he accepted. The procedure was harsh. His body was exposed to pulses of energy that burned like fire and froze like ice. The pain was endless, but slowly something changed in Halle. His skin began to harden, not like armor, but like living fire that could absorb damage and heal faster than any known medicine. Many others tried to endure the same test, but most failed. Their bodies could not handle the power that the scientists unleashed. They screamed and burned, and then fell silent, leaving only echoes of their sacrifice. But Halle remained standing. He was marked by the experiment in ways no one understood. His blood carried new energy, his muscles could resist heat, and his senses sharpened beyond normal limits. The military leaders called him the prototype, the future of warfare, and yet Halle felt more like a prisoner trapped inside his own changing flesh. The information about Project Emberskin was supposed to be secret, but war has a way of leaking truth like a broken dam. Alien spies had intercepted data transmissions, and soon rumors spread through the galaxy about a new breed of human soldiers who could walk through fire and shrug off plasma blasts. The news terrified the enemy forces, who had believed humans to be weak and easily destroyed. Their shock turned to fear, and then to anger. They sent their best mercenaries to capture Sergeant Halle alive, to study and hopefully reverse the strange power growing inside him. On a small war-torn moon called Ilthur, Halle found himself surrounded by the alien mercenary team. Their weapons glowed bright, and their eyes showed no mercy. They opened fire with lasers and plasma rifles, trying to burn him down, but Halle moved with a strange calm. His body reacted before his mind could even register the attack. The energy struck his skin, and instead of burning him, it seemed to flow into him like water filling a broken vessel. With every blast, he absorbed power, growing stronger and hotter until his entire body started to glow from within like a living furnace. The mercenaries were confused and terrified. They fired again and again, but nothing could stop the Ember Man. He did not fight back at first, not with weapons, but with silence and an unbreakable will. As their attacks grew desperate, Halle finally opened his eyes glowing gold and stepped forward, his hands leaving trails of molten energy in the air. His voice was low and steady. "I am no longer just human. I am what you made me, a living weapon fueled by your own hatred and fire." One by one, the mercenaries fell, unable to withstand the heat that radiated from Halle. Their armor melted, their weapons cracked, and their bodies weakened in the intense blaze. He moved like a shadow through the battlefield, consuming their energy and using it to burn through their ranks in moments. The moon was silent except for the crackling of fire and the soft hum of power flowing through Hale's veins. Far away in the council chambers of the Galactic Alliance, Dr. Yao Tun studied the reports and footage with growing concern. This was not a simple mutation or a trick of technology. This was evolution driven by war, pain, and survival, something no scientist had ever witnessed before. He ordered a secret team of researchers to capture more humans like Halle to understand the limits of this strange power back on Earth. The soldiers who had survived the early experiments were watched closely. Some showed signs of the same fiery adaptation, others struggled to keep control. Many feared that the power would consume them and turn them into monsters, but for Hale it was becoming clear that this new energy was part of something greater, something connected to the very essence of human will and spirit. The war continued to rage across the stars, but now a new force had emerged, a force that could not be stopped by lasers or plasma or the deadliest energy weapons. The Ember Man was no longer alone, and the galaxy was about to learn that humans were not just survivors. They were the future of war itself. They shot him 12 times. Then he glowed. The war had reached a new level of fear and confusion among the alien forces. Sergeant Elias Hale had become a legend whispered in fear across many systems, but no one really knew what he was capable of until the battle on the shattered moon of Vexor. Hale and his small unit were ambushed by an elite strike team of mercenaries sent by the Galactic Alliance to capture or kill him. The mercenaries came prepared with the latest weapons, plasma rifles that fired bolts of concentrated energy and fusion rounds designed to tear through any armor, but Hale faced them with a calm that unnerved even the most hardened soldiers. Fight began with a hail of energy blasts that lit up the dusty battlefield. The mercenaries fired without mercy. 12 direct hits struck Hale's body, piercing his armor and searing his skin. But something impossible happened. Instead of falling, Hale's body began to glow with a fierce golden light. The burns that should have killed him started to heal as the energy coursed through his veins. Like wildfire, his eyes flared bright as molten gold, and a quiet power filled the air around him. His squad mates watched in awe and terror as Hale stood tall, his glowing body shimmering with heat. The mercenaries hesitated, unsure whether to continue their attack or retreat. The air was thick with tension as Hale slowly lifted his hand, and the energy in his body burst outward in a wave of heat that melted the ground and sent the enemies staggering backwards. Their weapons cracked and fizzled under the intense energy. One by one, the mercenaries tried to regroup and fire again. But Hale was faster. He moved like a flame, dancing across the battlefield, absorbing their attacks and turning their power against them. With every blast, his strength grew and his skin became brighter and hotter until he was a living furnace. His voice was calm but carried a warning. If you want to kill me, you will only feed the fire inside me. The battle ended quickly as the mercenaries fled, leaving behind broken weapons and scorched earth. Hale's squad approached cautiously, unsure if their leader was still human or something else. His glowing eyes met theirs, and in that moment, they saw both the man they knew and the power that war had forged within him. Word of the battle spread fast across the galaxy, stirring fear among the ruling empires. Alien leaders held emergency meetings trying to understand how a single human could survive weapons designed to annihilate entire armies. Scientists argued and debated, but no explanation was found. Some suggested that Hale's body was rewriting itself at a cellular level, adapting to the energy like a living battery. Others feared that this was only the beginning and that humans were evolving into a new form of life altogether. Meanwhile, Hale struggled with the changes inside him. The glowing energy brought power but also pain. His body was no longer entirely his own. Sometimes it would flare uncontrollably, burning everything nearby, or at times it would grow cold, leaving him weak and vulnerable. He wondered if the experiment that had changed him was a gift or a curse. He feared losing the man he once was to this new unstoppable force. In the hidden labs of Earth, scientists raced to understand Hale's transformation. They studied tissue samples and energy readings, trying to unlock the secrets of the Ember Skin project. Some believed they were on the brink of creating an army of energy-adapted soldiers, while others warned of the dangers of playing with forces beyond human control. The questions remained unanswered as the war raged on, and Hale became both a weapon and a symbol of humanity's will to survive as the Galactic Alliance sent more troops to capture Hale. The humans prepared for a new kind of battle, one where survival meant embracing the fire within and learning to control a power born of pain and war. Hale knew that the war was far from over, but he also understood that the way forward would change everything. For the first time in history, humans were no longer the hunted. They were becoming the hunters, the living flames that no weapon could extinguish. The golden glow of Hale's body lit the dark skies over the battlefield, and as the sun rose, the message was clear. The war had entered a new era, and humanity had found a way to fight fire with fire. The truth behind human flesh. The Galactic Alliance was shaken to its core by the growing rumors of humans who could walk through energy fire without dying. Alien scientists and leaders scrambled to understand what made these humans so different. Dr. Yaltoon, one of the most respected biologists in the galaxy, was called to lead a special investigation in secret, hidden deep inside the towering laboratories of Station Vrax. This station orbited a dead star and was known for experiments on the limits of life and death. Dr. Yaltoon had seen many strange things in his long career, but the reports about the human survivors puzzled him. His scans and analysis showed something impossible. The humans' bodies were not just resisting energy attacks. They were changing, actively adapting on a cellular level. His instruments detected bursts of rapid DNA restructuring, healing at speeds no species had ever displayed before. The energy from the weapons did not burn the humans like it did others. Instead, it seemed to awaken a strange force within them, a force connected to pain, fear, and survival. Itself, the scientists pored over data and samples taken from human prisoners who had been exposed to energy blasts. Some showed glowing veins beneath their skin. Others had patches of flesh that shimmered like molten metal. One subject named Sergeant Hale had cells that produced a type of bioenergy that interacted with external energy weapons in a feedback loop, causing his body to absorb and convert the blasts into healing and strength. Dr. Yaltoon's findings caused a storm among the Galactic Council. Many feared that the humans were not just adapting, but evolving into something beyond their control or understanding. Some leaders pushed for immediate elimination of all humans before this power grew too strong. Others argued for research and containment. The council was divided, and tensions rose as fear of human power spread like wildfire. Back on Earth, the secret behind Project Ember Skin was more complicated than anyone had realized. The project had started as a desperate attempt to create soldiers who could survive the new age of warfare, but the experimental treatments had unexpected effects. Some volunteers gained strange abilities while others were destroyed. The treatments triggered a unique genetic response tied to the human species' history of surviving extreme conditions and adapting quickly to new environments. Scientists theorized that humanity's long struggle against nature and war had embedded a hidden potential deep within their DNA, a potential that could be activated by extreme stress and injury. The energy weapons had unknowingly become a catalyst for this latent power, awakening something ancient and primal inside humans. Their bodies had learned to read the energy and use it as a source of strength. The knowledge was both terrifying and awe-inspiring. Earth's leaders understood that they held a dangerous weapon, not in their arsenals, but within the very flesh of their people. The humans were no longer just fighting for survival. They were becoming something new and powerful, something that could change the fate of the galaxy forever. Meanwhile, Dr. Yaltoon continued his studies in isolation, working late into the night examining samples and running simulations. He noticed strange patterns in the human DNA that seemed to hint at a form of rapid evolution triggered by external energy. The humans were not simply resisting, they were rewriting themselves, becoming a hybrid of flesh and energy, something no species had ever achieved. One night, as he studied a human subject, the man suddenly awoke, his body glowing faintly in the dark. The glow pulsed with life and energy. It was as if the man carried a living fire inside him. Dr. Yaltoon realized that this was not a threat, but a new form of life emerging from the chaos of war. He whispered to himself, "Humans are becoming the energy they fight against." The revelation was dangerous and changed the course of the war. The Galactic Alliance began to rethink their strategies, fearing that attacking humans with energy weapons would only make them stronger. Some factions started exploring ways to capture and study humans, instead of destroying them, hoping to unlock the secret of their unique biology. Back on Earth, Sergeant Hawley and others like him struggled with their new bodies. They were no longer just soldiers, but carriers of a strange power that demanded control and understanding. The adaptation brought pain and power in equal measure. Some feared losing their humanity, while others embraced the change as the next step in evolution. The story of the Ember Skin Project was no longer just about survival. It was about transformation, about the birth of something new and unstoppable in the galaxy. A warning echoed through space. Do not fire on humans. You will only make them stronger. Earth responds. The news from the Galactic Alliance had reached Earth, and its leaders knew that the war was no longer just about fighting enemies with weapons, but about survival and proving that humanity would never be crushed. The human race had endured wars, famine, and destruction, but this new challenge was unlike any before. The energy weapons that once meant death now became a test of the human spirit, and the proof that Earth was no longer weak, but a power to be reckoned with. President Arya Chun stood before the Global Council, her voice calm yet firm, as she addressed the representatives from every nation. Her words echoed through the Grand Hall. We did not seek this war, but we will not run from it. The strength of humanity lies not in our weapons, but in our will to survive. We have learned to turn our enemies' fire into our own power, and we will show the galaxy that Earth will never fall in the ground. Sergeant Elias Hawley had become more than a soldier. He was now a symbol of hope and resistance for millions. His body still glowed faintly with the energy he absorbed, and he trained every day to control the power growing inside him. The military formed special units based on the Ember Skin Project. Soldiers who had survived energy blasts and showed signs of adaptation were gathered and trained to harness their new abilities. Atmosphere on Earth had changed. Cities that were once dark and silent now buzzed with energy as scientists and engineers worked on developing new technologies to support the evolving humans. The air shimmered with latent power, and strange lights could be seen at night as energy was absorbed and stored in ways never before imagined. The world was becoming a fortress fueled by human will and energy. Meanwhile, the alien fleets watched from afar, debating their next move. Some feared direct attacks, while others called for negotiations. But no one dared to underestimate the humans. The Galactic Alliance sent emissaries to Earth proposing talks, but President Chen refused. The message was clear. Earth would not bow and would not beg for peace, but they were ready to defend their home with every ounce of power they had. Then came the day the aliens launched a massive strike, aiming to break the human spirit and destroy the energy-adapted units. The skies over Earth burned with plasma fire, and the ground shook from bombardments. But something unexpected happened. The attacks did not weaken the humans. Instead, the energy absorbed by their bodies amplified the planet's own defenses. The atmosphere seemed to act like a giant battery, storing and redirecting the alien blasts. Entire cities began to glow softly at night, their buildings and streets pulsing with captured energy. It was as if Earth itself had become a living shield, a beacon of power that no enemy could ignore. The alien commanders watched in horror as their weapons were rendered useless and their forces slowed down by the strange phenomenon spreading across the planet. The human soldiers with Ember Skin abilities led counterattacks with precision and strength. They moved through battlefields, absorbing enemy fire and turning it into bursts of energy that pushed back the invaders. Their leader, Sergeant Hawley, was at the forefront, glowing brighter than ever and inspiring others to fight with renewed hope and determination. The battle lasted days, but the aliens failed to break the Earth's defenses. Their weapons failed, their strategies crumbled, and their morale fell. The humans had turned the tide of war, not with bigger guns, but with the power growing inside them. The message was clear. Earth was no longer a weak planet, but a force born from fire and resilience. In the aftermath of the battle, President Chun addressed the world and the galaxy. Her voice was filled with pride and warning. We did not ask for this fight, but we will not stop until Our home is safe. The more you attack, the more we will grow stronger. The Emberskin is not just a project. It is the future of humanity and the dawn of a new era. The galaxy listened carefully, knowing that the war had changed forever and that Earth had become a symbol of survival and strength. No longer could any enemy think of humans as weak or defenseless. The human race was rising from the ashes stronger and more united than ever. Before weaponized evolution, the war had changed the course of human history, and with it, the very meaning of survival. Sergeant Elias Hawley and others like him had become living legends. Their bodies no longer fragile, but weapons forged in the fire of energy attacks. The Emberskin soldiers were no longer just survivors. They were a new breed of warriors born from pain and power. Their ability to absorb energy and turn it into strength gave humanity an edge that no enemy could ignore. Hale had trained hard to control the strange energy flowing inside him. Learning when to release it and when to hold back was a constant battle. His body glowed softly under his uniform, a reminder of the power he carried, but also the burden it brought. His squad was made up of men and women who had survived similar transformations, each one unique, yet connected by the same fiery force. The Galactic Alliance feared this new human evolution more than any weapon. They watched as Emberskin soldiers marched fearlessly across battlefields, taking hits that would have killed others. The humans did not fight with guns alone now. They fought with the very energy that had been used to destroy them, absorbing and redirecting blasts like living batteries. It was a terrifying sight to behold, and the Alliance struggled to find ways to counter it. Earth decided to take the fight directly to the enemy, sending Hawley and 5 other adapted soldiers on a mission deep into enemy territory. Their goal was not to conquer, but to survive, walking through the deadliest war zones, absorbing every attack sent their way. They were living proof that humans had become something more than flesh and bone. The mission was dangerous beyond measure. They traveled across planets torn apart by war, where energy weapons ruled the skies. The soldiers moved steadily, unafraid of explosions or fire. Their bodies absorbed the blasts, their wounds healing in moments. Their glow lit up the darkness, guiding them through enemy lines and abandoned cities. On the planet Zorath, they reached the heart of a massive warship where the enemy commanders gathered, plotting new strategies to crush Earth. The soldiers knew this was their chance to send a message, to show that the humans were no longer weak, but a force that could not be stopped. Hawley stepped forward, touching the warship's core, and in that moment energy surged through him and into the ship. Circuits overloaded, and the metal groaned before melting away like ice under the sun. Destruction was complete, and the message clear. The weaponized evolution of humans was a power unlike any before, and no technology could match the living fire they carried. Inside the warship, as it crumbled, Hawley and his team stood unbroken, ready for whatever came next. News of the mission spread quickly, and fear rippled through the Galactic Alliance. Their attempts to develop new weapons failed to match the adaptability of the Emberskin soldiers. The humans had turned their own destruction into a new form of life, a life powered by energy and forged in the flames of war. Back on Earth, the government and scientists worked tirelessly to understand and improve the Emberskin technology, knowing that evolution was no longer a slow process, but something that could be accelerated by conflict and energy exposure. They trained new soldiers, tested limits, and prepared for a future where humans might not need traditional weapons at all. Hale reflected on the journey and what it meant for humanity. The war was far from over, but the humans had found a way to fight fire with fire, to turn pain into power and survival into evolution. The future was uncertain, but one thing was clear. The age of fragile humans was over, and the age of the Emberskin had begun. Don't fire on Earth. You'll only make us stronger. The war had changed everything, and the galaxy watched as humans rose from the ashes of destruction, not as victims, but as something new, something powerful. Sergeant Elias Hawley stood on the highest ridge of Earth's northern range, looking out over the horizon. The sky was clear, and the stars shone bright, but beneath the calm surface, there was a fire that no enemy could see. the fire inside every human that had been forged by war pain and the strange energy that now ran through their veins. Leaders from distant worlds sent emissaries and diplomats, seeking peace, but Earth's response was steady and strong. The message was simple and clear: don't fire on Earth, you will only make us stronger. The humans had learned that every attack, every blast that should have destroyed them, only fueled the change inside. They had become living weapons, energy flowing through flesh and blood, and the galaxy was forced to reckon with this new reality. Sergeant Hawley had become more than a soldier. He was a symbol, a reminder of what humanity could become when pushed to the edge. He traveled to distant worlds not as a conqueror, but as a warning and a hope. The humans did not seek endless war, but they would defend their home at any cost. The energy that burned inside them was a promise of survival and power that no one could ignore. In the Galactic Senate, debates grew heated. Some feared that humans would become unstoppable, others hoped for alliances that could harness this new force. But all agreed that the old ways of war were over. The humans had changed the rules by becoming the weapon. The Emberskin Project had unleashed a new evolution, a weaponized humanity that was alive and growing stronger with every challenge back on Earth. The people celebrated their resilience and their new power. The cities lit up the night sky with strange glowing patterns as energy flowed freely through their streets. The soldiers trained harder than ever, mastering the control of their internal fire, learning to focus and release it with precision. They were no longer just survivors, but leaders of a new age. Hale stood before a crowd, gathered under the glow of a rising sun. His voice carried across the crowd, calm and steady, but filled with meaning. The future is not written by those who seek to destroy, but by those who adapt and survive. We have become more than we were. We have become the flame that will never be extinguished. Let them know that Earth is not a place to be conquered, but a force to be respected. As the crowd cheered, Hawley looked to the stars and thought of the battles fought and the ones yet to come. He knew humanity's journey was only beginning, but one thing was certain: the war had changed them forever, and they would face the future with fire in their hearts and strength in their souls. Galaxy had learned a hard lesson that day. The humans who once seemed fragile had become unstoppable, not through weapons, but through the power of adaptation and will. The Emberskin was not just a defense, but a new way of life, a symbol of hope and unbreakable spirit. And as the stars shone down, Hawley whispered a vow to himself: this is only the beginning. The fire inside us will light the way for generations to come.